Parliamentary elections were held in Somaliland on the 31st of May 2021. Alongside local district elections, the election was the region's first parliamentary election since 2005. And politicians pointed to the election as evidence of political stability. Three parties: the populist Somaliland National Party announced that Wadani had received a plurality of seats with 31, Kulmi received 30, and UCID received 21. As no party had received an outright majority, Wadani and UCID announced they would form a political alliance. The election was tentatively scheduled and postponed numerous times since the last parliamentary election in 2005. The vote was scheduled for March and then August 2019 before the NIC declared it could not be held that year. After pressure from all three parties in 2020, the NIC agreed to hold an election in May 2021. Preceding the election, many local politicians expressed hope that it may help Somaliland be recognized as a nation by more members of the international community. President Muse Bihi Abdi and opposition leader Abdurrahman Mohammad Abdullahi called for voters to remain peaceful at the polls. The amount of polling stations increased by 61% from the 2017 presidential election, and 103 international observers came to monitor the polls and ensure election security. Somaliland, a self-declared sovereign state in the Horn of Africa which declared independence from Somalia in 1991, had not held elections to parliament since 2005. Unlike Somalia, which has experienced 3 decades of civil war, Somaliland has largely maintained peace. The parliamentary election had been consistently delayed since 2005. In 2015, Somaliland was supposed to hold a joint presidential and parliamentary election. Both were postponed following drought and political controversies. Delays in voter registration, caused by droughts forcing pastoralists to migrate, caused a tentative date of March 2017 to be pushed back as well. Negotiations between all three political parties in the National Electoral Commission led to the scheduling of the 2017 presidential election, which proceeded as planned, and a parliamentary election in April 2019. The election was delayed and rescheduled for August 2019. When it was also delayed, on the 12th of July 2020, Somaliland's three national political parties reached an agreement to hold parliamentary and local elections by the end of the year. After several weeks of negotiations with the NIC on the practicality of organizing elections in that time, a revised date of May 2021 was settled upon. Local politicians called the election evidence of Somaliland's stability, and expressed hope that a successful democratic election would potentially increase Somaliland's international recognition. Ahmad Dhire, the vice chairman of the ruling Kulmi Peace, Unity, and Development Party, told reporters, "I cannot tell you how important these elections are. We will be the sunshine of the Horn of Africa if we have successful polls." Mark Bradbury, director of the Rift Valley Institute, said that Somaliland could well end up as the only place in the Horn of Africa that has any form of democratic election at all this year. Both President Muse Bihi Abdi and opposition leader Abdurrahman Mohammad Abdullahi called for peace from voters. Before the election, the House of Representatives had no members of minority clans and only one woman. In 2021, one member of a minority clan and 13 women ran for office. However, none of the women were elected. 5 opposition candidates were arrested before the election, and several journalists were detained. Some politicians criticized the government for perpetual delayed elections and criticized the unelected House of Elders, calling both corrupt and undemocratic. According to activist Ayan Mahamud, the two most pressing issues are rights of minority groups such as Gaboy communities and women. Wadani, the major opposition party, made the promotion of women and minorities in society a key issue. The party, aligned with the left-wing economically but socially tied to Islamism and nationalism, included in its party manifesto a quorum of women comprising 30% of the parliament. Kulmi, an observer party of the Liberal International, has historically sought the establishment of a market economy but more recently has called for the nationalization of some companies and a welfare program funded by a wealth tax. Kulmi was seen as the front-runner ahead of the election. UCID, an observer party of the Socialist International, supports social democratic positions. The 82 MPs in the lower house of representatives of Somaliland are elected in 6 multi-member constituencies coterminous with the regions of Somaliland, using open list proportional representation for a 5-year term. Residents aged 15 or older are able to vote. The election was the first in Somaliland's history to be supervised by an independent organization, rather than by the president. 1,065,847 PEO.